Well, hello, I'm Dr. Samuel Jones. Welcome back. I hope that you have been enjoying the video content on this channel. I have been thoroughly excited about sharing this content. It has really helped me, and it's helping me more just to be able to share it with you. I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about today because I know a lot of us are dealing with a lot of different things. Some of those things are really challenging. Some of those things is a lot of uncertainty in it. But more importantly, we have to figure out how do we move forward, right? Instead of focusing on the past and focusing on what's happening right now, can we get a vision for going forward? And so let's keep it going. So the title of today's video is Redefine Yourself in Order to Win with What You Have Left. Now, that little mix up you just heard, guess what? That's part of life. And it happens to all of us. But you know what? I'm not going to let it stop me from going forward with sharing this content with you. So if you watched any of the previous videos, especially the video about how to win with what you have left, you'll notice that I've been talking about the story of Ruth and Naomi and that experience and how Naomi was really challenged to keep moving forward. And so today we're focusing on redefining yourself to win with what you have left. And I'm just going to read a couple of verses. Let me summarize first. So of course, the story is about Naomi. She lost her husband. She lost her two sons. And then all of a sudden now she's trying to go back home and her two daughter-in-laws are with her. And so we're going to talk briefly. So I'm going to read verses 6 and 7 in the book of Ruth. And it says, then she arose, talking about Naomi, she arose with her daughters-in-laws that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab that how the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. So whenever she went forth out of the place she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her, they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. So if you listen to the previous video, you heard me briefly talk about redefining yourself to win with what you have left. The first thing that you have to do, or the main thing that you have to do, is to be willing to start over. Be willing to go back home. That's what Ruth was doing. She was going back home to Judah, and she said, you know what, I'm going back. And she even, her daughter-in-laws wanted to go with her. And so as I talk about that, you may remember in the last video, I gave several things that keep people from starting over, from going back to square one. Here are those things. I'll summarize them. Number one, fear of the unknown, right? We just get so worried and anxious and have anxiety about the things that we don't know, and it keeps us stuck at where we are. Number two, the comfort zone. We just get so comfortable, we don't want to move, and we want to live in this place to where it feels good and we know what to expect. But guess what? It'll stop you from starting over. Number three, we briefly talked about the fear of failure, right? One of the things that I constantly say to people, especially when I'm working with them and coaching them, failure is feedback. And if you can just ingrain that in your mind, anytime you do something and you fail at it, okay, it may be failure, but step back and evaluate, what did you learn that you didn't know before? Can you evaluate what resources now that you realize that you need that you didn't have, right? It's feedback. And so if we look at it through that lens, it can be very beneficial for us. And more importantly, we'll be willing to start over and go back home. Number four, we talked about the opinion of other people, right? We can get so caught up in what people think about us. And we know that starting over or going back home is the best thing that could ever happen to us. But what do? We sit around, we worry about what other people think about us or what they're saying about us, right? If you're going to redefine yourself, you can't be worried about what people think about you. And last but not least, we talked about the emotional attachment to the location rather than the destination, right? If you're going to redefine yourself, you can't be so emotional attached to where you are. You have to learn how to focus on where you're trying to go, because where you're trying to go is going to take you and get you what you need to have. Okay. So today I want to share with you 6 strategies to redefine yourself to win with what you have left. So the 5 things we just briefly talked about, those are the things that'll stop you from going back, from starting over, more importantly, from redefining yourself. So today we're going to give you these 6 strategies, and I hope these 6 strategies will help you, because I promise you, they have helped me. And so I'm sharing information, and more importantly, to help you. So let's get into it. So the number one strategy to redefine yourself, to win with what you have left, we have to reconnect with our God-given identity. Okay? Reconnect with our God-given identity. Well, what is that identity? Well, first of all, we are created in the image of God. Right? So it's sometimes, and Naomi, if you remember the story, Naomi got to the place where she went back home, and people were glad to see her, and they were calling her Naomi, and she was saying, "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara." Well, what happened? Because she was stuck in what she had been through. And sometimes we get stuck in what we've been through, and we let what we've been through be our identity. Can you relate to that? Guess what? I can relate to that. You know, I grew up and never knew who my biological father was. And for so many years, I allowed that experience to be my identity until I realized that I was created in the image of God, and that God loves me, and that God has great things in store for me, and that God has a purpose for my life, and God has gifts, skills, and talents that He's blessed me with, and that I'm supposed to be doing something with those things. Guess what I began to do? I began to reconnect to my God-given identity. Guess what? If you're going to redefine yourself to win with what you have left, reconnect to your God-given identity. Remember, you're created in His image. Remember, He loves you. Remember, He'd never leave you nor forsake you. Guess what? Naomi had somewhat forgotten that. But it took Ruth, her daughter-in-law, who stuck with her, to remind her of that. So number one strategy to redefine yourself is to reconnect to your God-given identity. Number two is reestablish goals that inspire you to act. Now think about that, because sometimes we go through things and we forget what we said we were trying to do. We forget where we're trying to go. We just forget. But guess what Naomi did? She said, "I'm going back home." Now, originally, she didn't realize what that sounded like and what that meant for her. But she was just like, you know what? I'm going back to a place where I know, and I'm just hoping everything's going to be all right, because I heard that God is blessing the people there. So I'm just going back there. But guess what? That was a goal. And more importantly, it inspired her to take some action. Don't you dare have any goals, and those goals do not inspire you to take some action. You know, that's one of the biggest things that I get frustrated sometimes, even with myself. I say, well, I have a goal to do certain things. And guess what? I sit on it. I don't do anything with it. But when I recognize, okay, Sam, what are you going to do towards this goal? What are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you planning to do next week to accomplish the thing that you say you want to accomplish? You see, we have to reestablish these goals that inspire us to take some action. If you recall, in one of my previous videos, I gave you my personal definition for inspiration. What is inspiration? Inspiration is in spirit to take action. That's all it is. And so if you're going to redefine yourself, don't get stuck in what you've done or what you didn't do or what you failed at. Reestablish some goals that's going to inspire you to take action. That's number two. Number three is one of those things that really, we can get stuck. And so this is what I tell people. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. We have to learn how to accept brand new experiences. Remember in the previous video, I can't remember which one it was, but I talked about the 4 experiences that we need to go through and walk through and recognize when we in them. What are those 4 experiences? The first experience is that known experience. Sometimes a known experience, we will not even see the biases that we have, because we know what to expect, and then we know if that's going to happen, well, I'm going to do this, and so we get comfortable, right? That's what those known experiences do. What about those unknown experiences? Well, guess what? Fear and anxiety shows up because we just don't know. We don't know what to expect. And we start thinking about the worst case scenario, right? And then we look at and say, well, if I experience that, then that must be a reflection of who I am, right? Then guess what? We're not redefining ourselves when we do that. So those unknown experiences, that's what they do to us. Then, of course, the unwanted experiences. This is when we get that fight or flight. Oh no, I don't want to go there. Oh no, have you ever heard somebody say is, I do not want to go there with them. That's an unwanted experience. They want no part of that because they have in their mind that they're automatically going to react or respond to a certain way, that they feel like, you know what, I can't even control myself when I get around this person. So I don't even want to deal with them. I don't want to be with them. Guess what? Now you have just allowed them to redefine who you are based on how you're going to act. So again, you're not redefining yourself when that happens. And then, of course, the last experience, the one that I really like helping people, and more importantly, helping myself to focus on, is these understood experiences. These are the experiences where we get in and we learn. Why we make ourselves open to something new. And we say, you know what? What happens today or what happens with this is not a reflection of who I am, but it is a reflection as to what I need to learn, or maybe the resources I need to have, or maybe the network I need to be connected to. See, that's what these understood experiences do for us. And I'm telling you, if you're going to redefine yourself, you want to walk through all of those other experiences with the intent to get to the understood experiences. So we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Number 4, and this is what I love that Naomi eventually surrendered to, and sometimes we need to learn how to surrender to. Number 4 is surround yourself with positive influences, right? I mean, really, surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to do. Surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you and who are going to encourage you and who's going to keep you going. Guess what? Naomi had 2 daughter-in-laws. And she gave both of them the option to go back home because they were in their home country in Moab. And she said, you know what? Before I go back to Judah, both of you have the freedom to go back home to your families. And guess what? Orpah, one daughter-in-law, kissed and hugged and got emotion and all that. And Orpah said, okay, peace. I'll see you later. I'm gone. But guess what Ruth said? Ruth said, oh no, you're not going to get rid of me like that. I'm with you. I'm with you to the end. As a matter of fact, where you sleep, I'll sleep. Where you lodge, I'll lodge. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Ruth was, guess what? Ruth was that positive person that Naomi needed in her life. Who are the positive people that you need in your life? Right? Are you surrounding yourself with positive influences? Are you surrounding yourself with the people who looks out for you? Are you surrounding yourself with people who can see things in you that you can't even see in yourself? And matter of fact, they will challenge you to rise up to the things that they see in you. As a matter of fact, the people I have in my life, you know what they do for me? They remind me of the things that I said that I was going to do, because sometimes I forget. Those are the positive influences that you need in your life. And I'm telling you, when I read this story and I saw how Ruth, the scripture says that Ruth clung to Naomi. Oh my goodness. Sometimes the people around us will help us to redefine ourselves because they will not allow us to be lazy. They will not allow us to be slackful. They will not allow us to do mediocre work. They will say, no, that's not who you are. That's not the kind of work that you do. You do excellent work. I'm not going to let you slide by. Guess what? Those are the positive influences that we need in our life. Number 4. Number 5. And I tell you what, number 5 is one of those things that we all need to be mindful of. And we just need to take some time and do this every single day. Number 5 is, if you're going to redefine yourself, you got to give yourself some grace. Okay? Learn how to give yourself some grace. You are not perfect. I'm not perfect. And the very minute that we can accept that, oh my goodness, we give ourselves permission to just be who God has called us to be. I can promise you, you're going to do things that some people are going to be satisfied and it's going to feel good to you. And you're going to do some things that you felt really, really good about. And somebody will say, that was nothing. That was horrible. That was terrible. You don't let that redefine you. When you give yourself some grace, oh my goodness, you recognize that when people have judgment about you and what you do, it's only a reflection of them. You see, that's what happens when you give yourself some grace. Now you're able to give other people grace. Because when people have an opinion about you, and they have an opinion about what you do, and they have an opinion about how you dress, and they have an opinion about how you wear your hair, and they have an opinion about all of these things, you can recognize that, it's just their opinion. Why? Because first, I'm going to give myself some grace. And then number two, I'm going to give them some grace. So if you're going to redefine yourself, stop holding yourself to the standards of what people think about you. Stop holding yourself to standards to where things look so perfect. You know, I had to work on that for myself. And I promise you, I recognize that, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to do my very best based on what God has inspired me to do. And I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. And I've recognized that, you know, all the work that I do, there may be some people that really love it. And there may be some people that, it's okay. But it doesn't really matter to me. Why? Because I'm giving myself some grace. And again, as I give myself grace, I give that same grace to everyone else. That's number 5. And last but not least, number 6. Number 6, if you're going to redefine yourself to win with what you have left, you got to learn how to focus on what you can control. I mean, there's a lot of things in this world that you cannot control. Don't focus on it. You know, that's one of the reasons why I really don't watch a lot of the news. You know, I got into this place to where I was having some anxiety and focusing on problems and issues and things. And one day I realized, I said, Sam, you're learning all about all of these things that's happening in the world, about all of these issues and all of these problems. What can you do about it? I mean, that was a reality check for me. What literally can you do about it? And I realized I can't do nothing about all of that. But what I can do is focus on what I can control. I'm telling you, if you do that for yourself, you're going to redefine yourself. Because that's where you take that personal responsibility, right? You begin to own what you can control. Matter of fact, you begin to put your energy towards things that's really going to matter. And I'm telling you, for me, what matters now is doing the will of God for my life and sharing content like this and breaking the Bible down for people so they can have a better understanding. You know, I recognized that when I was first called into the ministry over, I guess, 9-10 years ago, one of the biggest, I wouldn't say issues, but one of the biggest desires that I was sitting in church, and it's not a reflection of who was speaking and who's preaching, so don't go there. But every church that I went to, I would hear a sermon, and I would walk away from the sermon thinking, I don't know how this relates to my life. I don't know how the way they taught it and their excitement, it didn't mean anything for me. Now, again, that's not a knock on how someone may preach and teach, but I'm just talking about for me. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's not what that's saying. It's so simple. I wish people could understand what it's saying. But you see, I didn't realize that at that time, God was redefining me. Looking back now, he was redefining me. You know, I was a college administrator. I was a professional speaker, and I just become a deacon in our church. And so I was hearing the word and I was studying the word, but I wasn't speaking the word. But I didn't realize that during that time and all of the things that I was experiencing, he was molding me to accept the call into the ministry. And I'm telling you, when I got that call, there was that deep desire to go and preach and teach his word. You know, one of the big concerns that I was like, God, I said, I didn't go to seminary school, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. And all of those questions and concerns that I had a conversation with God. I'll never forget it. My pastor was up preaching a message called Empty But Need to Be Filled. And I didn't hear that message. The message I heard was filled, need to be empty. And he was calling me into the ministry. And as I'm sitting there soaking on what I'm hearing, I said, Lord, I have all these thoughts and all these concerns, and I can promise you right now, that experience, he took me back to as if I was a little baby in the cradle of my father's arms, his arms. And it was so comforting. And he was letting me know, I'm redefining you right now, just how you are. You don't need all the things that you think you need. Go and preach and speak my word just the way you are. And don't you know, for the last 10 years, that's what I've been doing. And what I'm doing right now, recording videos, I've had this vision to be doing this 5 or 6 years ago. But you know what? I didn't do it. I didn't act on it. But I promise you, everything that has transpired in my life now has prepared me to do exactly what I'm doing today. So the whole reason why I'm doing this is to help you and I have a better understanding of what the scripture says so that we can relate it all to our lives. I mean, the Bible is one of the best leadership books ever written. I mean, it's got so many principles in it that we can apply to our lives. And what I want to do is to pull them out and share with you so that we all can be the best version of who God has called us to be. Not to be caught up in what we've been through and what we've done and the mistakes that we've done, but to recognize that he is sovereign and that he loves us and that he sent Jesus Christ as a perfect example for us to model our lives after him. And for me, that's what all of this is about. And again, I'm not perfect and you're not perfect. But the point is, we know someone who is. And so if we're going to redefine ourselves to win with what we have left, we need to be modeling ourselves after him and take on the spirit of him, because I promise you, we can be talking about Ruth, we can talk about Naomi, we can talk about whoever in the scripture, but it still goes back to him. So I want to encourage you today. Redefine yourself to win with what you have left. Take these 6 things that I just shared with you. Apply them to your life. Let them become a part of who you are. And I promise you, if you do that, you're going to win with what you have left. So again, I'm excited. I appreciate you taking some time to watch this video. Again, share this video with your network, with people who you feel like it may be helpful for them. I appreciate any comments, will be very helpful, what your thoughts are. If there's some topics you'd like me to pull out of the scriptures and talk about, hey, we'll pray about it, we'll study them, and we'll see what we can do. But I'm excited about doing this work, and I'm excited about helping people just like you. Listen, take what you got, take exactly what you have, and go and win with what you have left. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.